Hello Art12 and welcome to your wavy hair demonstration. And so I'm going to use this image, and obviously if your hair is longer and you can kind of see direction to it, you would just draw it longer. So I am following the steps in the notes, and so it's that Google Doc with the shading procedures. And the first thing says, if you have detailed hair outline, do the background first. So for this hair, I would actually do the background first. That way you can have these little hairs that overlap and get like a more natural look to your hair. If your hair is pretty slick, like that one, maybe you just have a little bit of direction more towards the front, then I could actually do the background of this one after, because it has like a clean contour. So take a look. If you have hairs overlapping your background, do your background first, watch that video, and then do your background. Okay, so right now I have length and direction guidelines, and we're going to avoid the highlight parts when we're adding in our dark values. And all the lines of the hair are going to be off padding, but we're going to start on padding and just do a base layer of the darker values. Okay, so with 6B, because her hair is darker, I am going to go in and kind of use more of the side of my pencil. And I'm just adding a layer where it's darker. So I'm looking at how that kind of actually curves up a little bit more than what I had. Kind of doing length and direction a little bit. Okay, so she has a lighter highlight on this piece. So I'm going to kind of avoid that piece for now. This is just kind of mapping out your darks and lights. So you are kind of avoiding the lighter parts as well. Okay, so looking down here on this wave, wherever it curves out, so this part's kind of curving out, like right here, it's going to catch some light. So I'm just going to do the darker parts in the inside of that wave. There's like a darker part in there. And this hair is not very dark over here, so I'm not going to go as dark. And you're going to kind of pull the dark values between the chunks of the hair. Just some darker value on the outside of that hair. Okay, then the bottom part. That piece I can probably erase later. Okay, so she has a definite curl. Actually, so she has like a curve here that's a little bit lighter. And then the little pieces overlapping, I'll probably just do one layer on those, and most of that's going to happen with mechanical pencil. All right, over on this side, oh, I forgot to draw her ear in there. Okay, she has a strand overlapping, and then above the ear it's darker. Gonna go around and fade up. And oh, I didn't even put that part in there. If you see areas, add them in. Okay, all along her. I'm trying to like refine, get a clean edge. Okay, so this is all kind of fading down. And we'll do some erasing out here. We just want to get a base layer. I'm trying to redraw in some of my guidelines. Okay, then with large blender, you're going to go back and just kind of go over in the direction It's gonna look bad at first. We're just kind of filling in the white and giving a tone to the hair. If your hair's lighter, you could use old school wooden pencil, so that way it just starts out a lot lighter. Okay, then I'm going to switch to medium blender. Gonna get in a little bit closer to the scalp line, get my edges a little bit better. And the flyaway hairs we'll do more towards the end. All right, oops, I might blend over that a little bit more. Okay, so then I like the old school wooden pencil eraser, or you can use mechanical pencil eraser, the end of it, if you don't have an eraser left on here. Or you can use a sharp part of the pink eraser, but we want a sharp edge, essentially. Okay, so now I'm gonna draw back in the highlights with the eraser. So I'm looking a little more closely. Okay, so she has like a strand here. That kind of turns into a dark layer here. She has a piece or a chunk over here that's a little bit lighter. Kind of fades up. So you're kind of reforming the hair a little bit. And obviously her hair is going to get a lot darker than this. Okay, so highlight on that first like kind of curved wavy part. So I'm kind of highlighting out where it's lighter and then fading up with the eraser. Okay, it shows like a chunk of lighter hair here, and then it curves more than what I had there. This chunk curves out. So like add that a little bit. Curves out a little further. Maybe even a little further. And then I have some light value fading up onto it. I add that darker chunk next to it. So I'm looking at some of the chunks that are on top too. Kind of redrawing some of those pieces that overlap. Okay, so then this piece becomes this piece that changes direction. And this piece overlaps. I'm just going to erase that over there. Okay, so I would do that to the other side as well. Like over here, I would erase out where it's kind of bending or curving out, but then I'm going to fade it up into the shadow. So take some time and pull back out the light values with the eraser. Okay, now with 6B, I'm going to go in and I'm going to do, hold on, let me sharpen my 6B. I'm going to do sweeping motions. And the hairline, I'm still not going to get perfect, like all the little edges or baby hairs, because I'm going to go back in with mechanical at the very end. But I want to do like kind of short sweeping motions and then do some like longer ones in between. I feel like that comes down a little bit more. It's a little straighter than it is wavy. Okay, so where it's darker, you're just going to add a couple extra lines. Like along this edge, it's a little bit darker. Where it tucks up underneath this piece, and darker kind of fades down. So we're gonna do some shorter ones, some longer ones. Scoop that in so you can see a little bit more where I'm looking. And so you want to kind of like go along the edge and like curve along the edge, but then come in. Like that still comes over, maybe like comes over a little bit further, a little bit higher up. Okay. Then I'm looking for like where one piece kind of tucks behind the other. Okay, so this is this piece and then kind of curves out, and so here where it curves, it's a little darker. A little darker fading onto this curve. Okay, because then that darkness turns lighter here, which actually I'll pull back out some so I just know. So if there's like straight up like just dark parts, then you can kind of fill them in as I am, like in the negative spaces. Especially as you're pulling up in between pieces. So you're looking at the major chunks of hair. Like her hair needs to come down a little bit longer. Which is like another piece. Okay, so okay, then in general, this kind of fades darker up in here. Maybe our neckline. Neckline. Okay, so this time I would do a layer of the hair that are like kind of overlapping a little bit. Okay, so I would do that all over. Actually, this light piece turns into a dark piece here. Like a really dark piece. Fades up into the light. Okay, let me make sure I... Okay, large blender. And you're gonna gently blend over the highlights. We'll go back and erase them. So for this type of hair, if you do a really good first and second layer, your third and fourth are just like a little bit of refining, and then we're adding mechanical pencil. So I'd really take your time and look for chunks of hair that are on top, overlap, where they kind of tuck into each other. Okay, so then I always erase out highlights. So it's a little bit lighter here. Always erase out highlights every time. And I'm kind of following this strand. It slowly starts to come to life. Then my next layer I would do with mechanical pencil. I would do 2 layers with mechanical. So now I am going to pay attention to like how the hair grows out of the forehead, like your hairline a little bit. If she has some like little baby hairs over there, so I'd add those in there. And again, I'm doing way more layers where it's darker, trying to fill in a little. I feel like it's not as light there. But even in the highlight part, I'm going to do some light, kind of gentle little streaks so that it looks like strands of hair, like layers of hair, and not just like, oh, it makes you look not gray, essentially. You're trying to make it look like you have darker hair. You just have, you know, highlights. So I also look for little chunks of hair, like little tiny darker values in between some of the strands, like in here, where I added some in there. Okay, so in this layer, I would kind of start to add in some of those flyaway hairs in the 3rd layer. Okay, so you're gonna go over gonna go on between. I'm not gonna do this whole thing for you because you kind of get it once you see it. But just know that you would do a whole nother layer after this. So the more you layer it looks, the better it looks. I'd actually, I mean, like if this were my actual drawing, I'd do like 5 or 6, but 3 to 4 good is good enough. And then with mechanical, I would go back and refine and do another round of erasing. And then I would do another round of adding. So 2 really good layers. And in here, I just feel like it needs to be darker in general. So I'm gonna add lots more kind of sweeping layers. So I'm holding my mechanical pencil towards the end, like kind of holding onto this little clip thing, so that I'm not pressing very hard so you can get fine line with the hair. And so I think adding in some of those darker streaks, and if you feel like you want to blend again, you can absolutely blend again. So I would do that over the whole. And I would get like right up underneath a piece and pull away. And then you're kind of perfecting the ends a little, etc. Okay, good luck. Remember to do your background first for this kind of hair.